Hey guys, how's it going? I recently got a question from one of the viewers in my comments about the Taurus G2C, and I thought this was a good question that would not only help the gentleman who left the question, but might help a lot of you guys or friends of yours that might have a disability and might have a hard time firing a lot of rounds out of a semi-automatic pistol. So I'm going to read his question, answer it for him, and hopefully this helps, several people. So here's what he's asking. He says, I'm close to buying G2C. I'm semi-disabled, and no way can I shoot at 400 rounds for the recommended break-in period. Maybe one box 50 rounds or 100 on 2 trips to the range. Is this enough? I'm retired LE and no Glock is good to go out of the box. Have model 26 and issued GAP 45. Your video is the best I've seen. I'm just older, not good health. Parentheses heart. So, do you think the G2C is for me? Also, have problems racking slide, parentheses, weak hands. So did get a Ruger 38 LCR for nightstand. Thanks, man. Blue Duck. So, here's what I have to say, Blue Duck. Different manufacturers of pistols have different, quote, break-in periods. Some manufacturers will say 50 rounds, some will say 100 rounds. In Taurus's case, I believe you're right. It's something rather high, like 400 rounds. Some manufacturers I've not really seen acknowledge an official break-in period. So, I'm not sure with break-in that you have to have an exact amount of rounds fired downrange to prove whether the gun's reliable or not. And I think a lot of times it's a case-by-case basis. So, the fact that you're former LE, this is good. It means you have experience, firing firearms, and you know how a firearm behaves and acts when you shoot it. So, you've got a head start over a lot of people. But here's a couple suggestions I have for you. I think 400 rounds might be a bit much, but there's other ways that we can simulate rounds fired without actually going to the range. So here's what I would say. I'd say bare minimum I'd fire those 50 live rounds. 100 would even be better. Try to get the 100 out of there. That's kind of a number I've used a lot of times. Of course, keep in mind, when you're firing those rounds, don't only shoot 115 grain Federal cheap brass case Walmart arrow if you're going to be ammo, if you're going to be carrying like a Federal HST or some type of underwood loading. Make sure that you're firing at least as a bare minimum, I would say 25, and if you could do it, 50 rounds of your self-defense ammo that you're actually going to be carrying, because I've had guns in the past where they will feed ball ammo all day long, but they struggle with hollow points. Stupid as this sounds, I've even had guns that shot hollow points all day long and struggled with ball ammo. So make sure that you're actually going to get some shots fired, live fire, with the ammo you're going to carry. Don't forget that. Now, with you being disabled, maybe you don't have a lot of physical stamina. Maybe in your case or other people's case, maybe there's weak hand strength or arthritis or something in your hands. This affects a lot of people. There's a pretty cool invention out there, and I'm going to put the link down in the description, called a Handi Racker. And specifically the one I'm going to link to is the Handi Racker 2. It's available on Amazon. There's 2 different sizes. They give you the measurements. I believe the orange one, which is the little bit larger size, would be the proper one for this gun, the G2C. Whereas some of your teeny guns, like let's say this gun here, or like an LCP, something like that, they make a green, which is a smaller size. And what this does is this is just a square object that you kind of put the slide of your gun in. I do not have one here. And you can press it against the wall, put the frame of your gun in it, and just push, and it's going to rack the slide. Or down on a table, or you could probably grab the sides of it. Anyways, this is a way to assist racking a gun for somebody who doesn't have a lot of hand strength in their fingers to be able to get down on the slide and overcome the tension from the recoil spring assembly, right? So here's what I would say I would do. If you can't fire the 400 rounds, I'd still like you to fire at least 400, if not even more, doing what's called dry firing. So make sure the gun's clear, and it is. We rack the slide, just dry fire the gun. You can practice the double action or the restrike capability. You can also, either with your hands, if they're in good strength, rack the slide, prove the reset, or again, this Handi Racker, that's where this comes into play. You could sit there and dry fire using a Handi Racker system and just keep pressing, and it's going to get rid of a lot of the tension on your fine motor handling skills, like your fingers, for example, if they're weak or if you have arthritis or other things. So here's what I would say where I would personally feel comfortable. I would say get those 100 rounds fired downrange. At least 20, 25 rounds, preferably even 50 of the actual ammo you're going to carry. Use this Handi Racker if it helps you. I think it's a great little invention. Looks like it's available for 20 bucks on Amazon. Little extra expense, but not a deal breaker. And I would say shoot 50 to 100 rounds and dry fire this thing 500 times, even 1,000 times if you want. Because nothing is going to completely, simulate the violent recoil impulse of shooting. That's why we're still going to shoot the gun some, right? But a lot of the inner workings of the gun, such as the trigger, the reset, and just the general action of the slide is going to prove itself by dry firing. And plus, as you already know probably, dry firing is great practice. It helps with trigger control. It helps with muscle memory, both in gross motor movements and fine motor movements. Another tool that you can use are these training rounds, otherwise known as snap caps. These are also available on Amazon. I talked about these in a video about the Star pistol. So we can take these training rounds, which are not live ammo. I always think it's the best rule of thumb if you're messing with training rounds, make sure there's no ammo on the table, preferably not even in the same room. So leave your gun room, bring your training rounds into the living room, no guns on the coffee table, no ammo, make sure we've only got training rounds. I think that's important. You can load up the training rounds, and besides trigger pull and proving the mechanisms of the gun, we can now work on loading the pistol, chambering around. We can see the loaded chamber indicator is now up on this gun. You get to practice getting familiar with that. And we can also dry fire on this training round because it has a special silicone type rubber where the primer would be, in the primer pocket. Now on some guns, these training rounds are actually necessary to keep from breaking firing pins and such. On the G2C, that's not the case. This gun's pretty much good to go to dry fire on an empty chamber all you want. But let me say this, dry firing on one of these special snap caps certainly isn't going to hurt the longevity of the gun. So you can fire on the snap cap, you can practice loading and unloading rounds. You can practice a malfunction. Anyhow, so here's the deal. The fact that you can't fire the gun as much as you might like to, it's not the ideal situation. I get it. But the fact is, sometimes perfection can get in the way of good enough. And the fact is, with you being disabled, maybe a little weaker body nowadays, you need to protect yourself just as much. And I applaud you for realizing that and still carrying on and fighting on, man. So that's awesome to hear. So, in conclusion, you'll know if the gun's good enough for you or if you can trust it. Use your common sense, but I would say if you can't fire as many rounds as you'd like to, compensate with extra dry firing, using the Handi Racker, using some of these other aids to help you out, and yeah, go for it. So I really appreciate the question. I thought it was a really good question. I've had similar questions to this quite a few times, and I'm glad that you brought it up, and I hope this video helps you, Mr. Blue Duck, and hopefully it helps other people out there that are having the same questions, or maybe a friend or relative that you know, whether old or young, is having issues with their hand strength. Check out the Handi Racker, and remember, dry firing is not the same as actually shooting, but it's a valuable training tool, and you can help bridge the gap a little bit. A bunch of dry firing is actually going to do a somewhat simulation of firing the gun. So go ahead, dry fire the crap out of it. Remember to be very safe when dry firing. Use your common sense. Be safe as always, and go for it, man. All right, hopefully this video helped you, and hopefully it helped somebody else. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and have a good one.